Carolyn Jones was a famous actress with beautiful cold eyes and a sad smile. She became super popular playing Morticia Addams in the Addams Family TV show. But behind her amazing looks, there were secrets no one knew about. Recently, some old private photos of Carolyn were found, and they shocked everyone in Hollywood. These pictures showed the real Carolyn Jones, not the perfect Morticia character everyone loved. In some photos, her face had bruises from medical treatments she had to hide. In others, she looked super skinny and unhealthy. Some pictures showed her eyes all puffy, but she was still trying to smile so nobody would know she was struggling. If people had seen these photos back then, her whole career could have been ruined. Now, these same photographs are finally telling the story that Hollywood tried to keep secret. The summer of 1953 was an exciting time in Hollywood. Columbia Pictures announced a new movie called From Here to Eternity. A famous movie magazine called it the studio's best bet to make lots of money and win awards. Big stars like Burt Lancaster, Montgomery Clift, and Frank Sinatra were already hired. The biggest surprise was choosing who would play Lorene, a complicated character who worked as a hostess. Instead of picking a famous actress, director Fred Zinnemann took a chance on someone new. Carolyn Jones. A reporter from the New York Times named Howard Thompson said, "The moment she walked into the audition room, everything changed." He wrote that this skinny blonde girl from Texas walked in, and her eyes seemed to say, "I'll do whatever it takes to be remembered." Many people thought she would have the most exciting debut of the year. But things didn't go as planned. While getting ready to film in Hawaii, Carolyn got really bad asthma attacks. People who were there remembered that even running just a few steps on Waikiki Beach made her fall down on her knees, unable to breathe. She had to go to a nearby medical office. A military doctor helping with the movie warned that if she kept going, she would definitely get serious pneumonia. Carolyn really wanted to keep the role, so she tried to hide how sick she was. But rumors spread quickly around the film set. Someone who worked with the cameras later remembered seeing her sitting alone on the stairs of the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, shaking from a bad coughing fit. But the moment a reporter from The Hollywood Reporter showed up, she sat up straight and smiled brightly like nothing was wrong. Columbia Pictures was stuck in a tough spot. They had already spent millions of dollars. Reporters were watching everything closely. A secret company note that was leaked later showed that the bosses were worried she might have a very public medical emergency on set. There was only one answer: replace her with Donna Reed. What happened next is now a famous Hollywood story. Donna Reed did great in the role and won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress in 1954. And Carolyn just quietly went back to Los Angeles. There was no press conference, no explanation. The Los Angeles Times only wrote one sentence: Carolyn Jones leaves production because of health reasons. But behind those simple words was a career that got completely messed up. Only a few people knew that some insiders thought the real problem wasn't just her health. Columbia executives thought she was too inexperienced to act alongside such huge stars. Gossip magazines made it worse, writing that she had lost Hollywood's golden opportunity because of just a simple cold. They turned her private pain into something everyone laughed about. That sudden loss forced Carolyn into years of struggling to find work. Friends later said that whenever the Oscar ceremony showed Donna Reed winning, Carolyn would get quiet, pour herself another drink, and change the channel. It was a hurt that never went away, but that heartbreak gave her strength. She was no longer the weak newcomer. She became tougher, even in love. That's why her next chapter, a crazy marriage to a young writer-producer named Aaron Spelling, would become one of the most talked-about relationships in Hollywood. There are Hollywood couples where people only remember one person's name. But in the early 1950s, Carolyn Jones and Aaron Spelling were the complete opposite. They met in 1953 at a party at Chateau Marmont on Sunset Boulevard. Carolyn had already started getting attention from critics after her role in The Big Heat. Aaron Spelling, meanwhile, was still a struggling freelance screenwriter living in a tiny apartment in West Hollywood. He spent his days hunched over an old typewriter, selling scripts for barely any money. Hedda Hopper from the Los Angeles Times once described seeing them together at the Chinese Theater. She wrote about a skinny guy with messy hair walking next to a gorgeous blonde actress. He looked more like an assistant following a star. People back then jokingly called Aaron Mr. Carolyn Jones, a nickname that stuck with him for years. When they got married, the difference in their success and money was obvious. Carolyn made thousands of dollars for each role, which was way more than Aaron's few $100s per script. Once at a Beverly Hills party, photographers caught Carolyn driving her brand-new Cadillac Eldorado while Aaron sat in the passenger seat, holding his wife's purse and coat. The photo made the cover of Photoplay magazine with the mean headline, "So who's the real star in the Spelling household?" For more than 10 years of marriage, Carolyn was the one making most of the money. She accepted every kind of role: crime dramas, horror movies, even small TV shows, just to keep up the fancy lifestyle they both wanted. Rumor has it she once paid off Aaron's debts after one of his TV scripts got rejected by NBC. A friend of the couple remembered, "One night, Carolyn came home from filming, didn't even eat dinner, and immediately wrote a check to pay off a bank loan that was in Aaron's name." This situation soon became something gossip papers loved to talk about. Some made fun of Aaron as the producer living off his wife. He got annoyed, but Carolyn would usually just laugh and tell her friends, "Let them think what they want. I can take care of both of us." Still, looking calm on the outside couldn't hide the problems. In a private interview in 1962 with journalist Rona Barrett, Carolyn admitted, "I'm tired of always being the strong one. I just want to be a normal woman in a normal home." That quote was later leaked, making people wonder if their marriage was in trouble. By 1964, Carolyn's career started slowing down while Aaron suddenly got chances to produce small television shows. This changed the power balance at home. They started arguing a lot. Variety even reported that the two often left events separately, not walking hand in hand anymore. Their divorce in Los Angeles shocked Hollywood, not because they broke up, but because of how Carolyn handled it. Instead of asking for alimony, money that almost all actresses got at the time, she completely refused it. In court, before the judge, she simply said, "I don't want a single penny from him. I'll take care of myself." The Hollywood Reporter ran the headline, "Carolyn Jones rejects alimony. Actress breaks Hollywood tradition." Many people thought it was crazy. Some even called her arrogant. But early feminist writers like Gloria Steinem praised her as a woman brave enough to step out. From a man's financial shadow, Carolyn's marriage to Aaron Spelling was both romantic and a silent battle over roles and power. It left her stronger and more independent but also emotionally hurt. And after that moment, she made a drastic decision to completely change herself and get plastic surgery, believing it was the key to reopening the doors of a ruthless Hollywood. Hollywood in the late 1940s was a huge machine where beauty wasn't just helpful, it was required. In that world, Carolyn Jones, a skinny girl from Amarillo, Texas, had a burning dream of being on camera. But the path ahead was anything but easy. From the moment she arrived in Los Angeles in 1946, she got criticized constantly. People said her Southern accent was too strong. It would make audiences laugh instead of feel emotional. They said her thin body didn't look good on screen. But what got her rejected most often was her nose. It was a bit too wide, a bit too flat, not good for photos. A casting director at Paramount once said straight to her face during an audition, "Young lady, cinema needs faces like paintings, not faces like yours." Those words really hurt. In 1947, Carolyn made the boldest decision of her life, to get nose surgery. Back then, cosmetic surgery was still considered shameful. The Los Angeles Examiner even ran an article warning that a surgeon's knife could destroy your career if people found out. But Carolyn had no other choice. She promised herself, either change or get kicked out of Hollywood forever. Rumor has it that she went to Dr. Howard Diamond, one of the few well-known plastic surgeons in Beverly Hills who worked with top actresses in complete secrecy. The surgery cost $750, a huge amount of money for a young woman who had just moved from Texas. To get the money, people said Carolyn sold her dead mother's wedding ring and worked 3 jobs at a movie theater on Hollywood Boulevard. On the day of the surgery in May 1947, Carolyn walked into the Wilshire Boulevard Clinic, shaking with fear. A nurse later remembered, "She was shaking so much she got hives on her wrists, but her eyes were blazing like she knew her whole life was about to change in just a few hours." The operation took almost 3 hours. Some people whispered that she bled so badly they almost had to stop, but she made it through. Months later, when Carolyn showed up again, no one recognized the woman they had rejected before. Her newly fixed nose made her whole face light up. Photoplay magazine showed her picture in 1948 with the caption, "A new beauty emerges in Hollywood." Whispers spread through the industry. Had she just proven the power of surgery more convincingly than anyone before? From then on, acting roles started coming in. Warner Brothers invited her for small parts in crime movies. Young directors like Robert Aldrich started noticing her name. Casting rumors said that within a year of the surgery, she got over 30 audition offers, an impossible number for someone new. But with her success came gossip. Hollywood Confidential ran a mean headline, "Carolyn Jones, the nose worth $1,000. Some reporters even dug up her old photos to compare, using them as proof that she had bought her career. Carolyn chose to stay quiet, neither confirming nor denying it. Still, close friends remembered that at a 1950 party in Beverly Hills, she quietly sighed, "I traded a piece of my face for a ticket. Now I must perform well enough to deserve its price." It showed the conflict inside her, pride and haunting doubt mixed together. But there was no denying it. That painful decision opened a new door. She was finally being taken seriously. And soon she would dare to make even more controversial choices, ones that would leave Hollywood blushing. The boldest of all was her participation in the sex education film Love Variations in 1970, a move that split public opinion and sent the press into a frenzy. By 1970, Hollywood was going through chaos. The Vietnam War was getting worse. Young people were protesting everywhere. And in movie theaters, bold films like Midnight Cowboy and Last Summer started breaking every accepted rule. During all that craziness, Carolyn Jones suddenly appeared in a project few could have imagined. Love Variations. This wasn't a normal romance movie. It was advertised as a modern sex education film and was shown in regular movie theaters. But its content was shockingly explicit for that time. Physical intimacy was shown on screen as teaching lessons. What shocked audiences most was Carolyn Jones appearing not as an actress playing a character, but as a soft-spoken narrator and guide, almost like a teacher giving lessons in a classroom, except the subject was sex. The Daily Mail in the UK ran a sensational headline, "Morticia Addams becomes the sex instructor of a new era." Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Times wrote, "Clearly, Carolyn Jones has stepped out of her Gothic gown and into a realm no one saw coming." The premiere at Leicester Square in London became a spectacle. Reporters crowded around to photograph Carolyn on the red carpet in a pure white dress, deliberately contrasting with the film's content. Outside, protesters shouted that the film was poisoning public morals, while crowds of university students cheered in support. In the U.S., the reaction was even more intense. NBC ran a special news segment showing censored clips from the film alongside angry commentary from critic Rex Reed, who said, "Seeing Carolyn Jones in this film is like watching Jacqueline Kennedy hawk a handbook on bedroom etiquette. It's unbelievable and scandalous." Public opinion split sharply. One side, especially young viewers, called Carolyn a fearless icon, breaking social taboos. They compared her to pioneers behind future works like The Joy of Sex. The other side condemned her for degrading herself, calling it a fall from grace. Gossip ran wild. Some claimed she accepted the role for its rumored $100,000 paycheck, a huge amount at a time when her career had stalled. Others insisted she sought it out intentionally, determined to shatter the Morticia curse and prove she was more than a Gothic character. A director anonymously told Variety, Carolyn told me herself she'd rather cause a scandal than disappear quietly. The consequences were immediate. Major studios crossed her off casting lists. Gossip magazines mocked her relentlessly. Hollywood. Reporter-critic Richard Warren wrote bluntly, "Carolyn Jones gambled her reputation and may lose her entire career." Ironically, Love Variations became a commercial hit in European movie theaters. Crowds came out of curiosity alone. In Britain, she was suddenly labeled a sex education trailblazer. But back home in America, her image was permanently changed. Whether praised or condemned, no one could deny one thing. Carolyn Jones had ignited the most polarizing moment of her career. It exposed her relentless determination to break free from safe roles. But it also deepened the shadow looming over her. The shadow of Morticia Addams, the character who had made her famous yet now trapped her in an identity she could not escape. In the autumn of 1964, when The Addams Family premiered on ABC, America went into a frenzy. In cramped living rooms from Chicago to New York to Los Angeles, families gathered around black and white televisions to watch the bizarre Addams clan. And among the eccentric cast, one figure stood out unmistakably: Morticia Addams, portrayed by Carolyn Jones. Dressed in a sleek floor-length black gown, gliding across the set with slow, ghost-like grace, speaking in a voice both hushed and hypnotic, she instantly became the definitive Gothic queen of television. Life magazine dedicated a 1965 cover to her with the headline, "Morticia, the woman who makes America shiver and swoon." The New York Times critic Jack Gould wrote, "No television character has ever been this eerie and seductive at once." But few realized how quickly that glory would turn into a cage. After only 2 seasons, Carolyn had become a cultural icon. Yet precisely because Morticia was so iconic, directors grew hesitant to cast her in anything else. A Warner Brothers executive bluntly remarked in a private meeting later leaked to Variety, "Audiences will never believe Carolyn Jones as a regular suburban mother. They'll only see Morticia pretending." Carolyn herself confirmed this fear in an appearance on The Mike Douglas Show in 1967, saying, "I once auditioned for a family comedy. The director looked at me and laughed. He said he couldn't picture Morticia in an apron cooking dinner. I smiled and walked away, but inside I felt like something had been torn from me." Once The Addams Family ended in 1966, she took on a handful of film projects, but most failed. Heaven with a Gun, 1969, flopped. Several TV pilots she joined were canceled early. Los Angeles Herald-Examiner wrote coldly, "Audiences refuse to let go of Morticia, and that is killing every other role she attempts." Behind the scenes, whispers grew harsher. A screenwriter claimed she once burst into tears during a 1968 MGM audition after overhearing a casting director mutter, "She only has one face, the Morticia face." Such offhand remarks became daggers. Some colleagues even suggested she was being quietly resented within the industry, that Morticia's success had overshadowed her co-stars too much. John Astin, her on-screen husband Gomez Addams, once reportedly joked at a Beverly Hills gathering, "You sold your soul to Morticia. Nobody remembers who Carolyn really is." It was meant playfully, but it summed up a painful truth. Morticia Addams had lifted Carolyn Jones to the peak of fame, but also slammed shut countless future doors. It became the Morticia curse she carried for the rest of her life. The spotlight had been dazzling, but once it dimmed, what remained was a haunting emptiness. Yet the tragedy didn't end there. After years trapped in Morticia's shadow, Carolyn faced an even greater trial. One she kept hidden from nearly everyone. A terminal illness she battled silently, even as she continued to stand before cameras as if nothing were wrong. In 1981, while audiences still remembered Carolyn Jones in her iconic black gown from The Addams Family, in a cold room at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, a doctor delivered a thunderbolt: late-stage colon cancer. A nurse later recalled, in an interview with People magazine, She sat in silence for a long time. No tears, no screams, just staring out the window. Then she turned and said softly, "I have too much left to do. I can't stop now." In Hollywood at the time, where women over 40 were already considered past their prime, revealing an illness was the same as ending one's career. No one understood that better than Carolyn, so she chose silence. To friends and colleagues, she claimed she only had stomach ulcers, a common problem no one would question. Journalist Liz Smith of the New York Daily News once wrote, "Carolyn built a wall of pride so high that even those closest to her had no idea what was really happening." The shocking part was that even in that condition, Carolyn accepted a role in CBS's soap opera, Capital. On set, she arrived on time, fully made up, smiling as if nothing was wrong. But the truth behind the scenes was far different. A lighting technician, speaking anonymously to the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, revealed, "Some days she would collapse into a chair after a scene, her hands ice-cold, drenched in sweat. But when the director called, 'Ready?' why, she'd stand up, fix her hair, and say, 'Let's do one more.'" Rumors began swirling in late 1982 when Carolyn appeared at an event in Beverly Hills looking frail and gaunt. Hollywood Reporter ran the headline, "Morticia Addams is now only a shadow of herself." The public speculated wildly. Some believed she was addicted to tranquilizers. Others thought she was depressed over her fading career. No one imagined she was fighting a silent war for her life. A Capital co-star later recalled, "I asked her, 'Carolyn, are you okay?' She smiled and said, 'Just my stomach acting up again. Don't worry.' I knew she was lying, but the way she said it, I didn't dare ask more." That simple line masked an unimaginable pain. And yet, to the very end, Carolyn clung to dignity. At a year-end gathering in 1982, she reportedly said, "I never want the audience to see me weak. On screen, I must still be Morticia. Cold, immortal, untouchable." Those words, recorded by journalist Rona Barrett, still send chills through her fans today. The truth was that Carolyn chose work over the hospital bed, the soundstage over rest. She became a symbol of fierce dedication and pride. But her story also exposed Hollywood's darker truth, that an artist sometimes has to hide everything, even their death sentence, to protect an image. By 1983, Carolyn's health had deteriorated beyond recovery. She was skin and bones. Some scenes were filmed from a wheelchair, yet she never lost her smile. Behind the lights, she was preparing a final decision, one both romantic and tragic, to enter one last marriage with longtime friend Peter Bailey Britton, as a final farewell to herself and to those who still loved her. In September 1982, while Hollywood was busy with Emmy Awards and loud red carpet premieres in Beverly Hills, in a small villa on Bel Air Road, Carolyn Jones was quietly preparing for the most important day of her life. Not a film shoot, not a press conference, but her final wedding, held when she already knew she had less than a year to live. The groom was Peter Bailey Britton, a longtime friend who had stayed by Carolyn's side through her struggle to reclaim her place after the Morticia curse. Peter was neither a star nor a powerful producer. He was just an ordinary man, a theater instructor in New York who later moved to California. What made him extraordinary was his quiet, steadfast love for Carolyn, even when she had fallen into illness and obscurity. According to the Los Angeles Times, the wedding had only about 30 close guests with no paparazzi or journalists in sight. The venue was kept secret until the last minute to avoid any attention. Carolyn appeared in a simple white dress, her face gaunt from illness, yet still glowing with a radiant smile. One close friend recalled, "She was so thin that they had to tighten the waist of the dress so it wouldn't slip." But her eyes had never been brighter. When the minister read the vows, Carolyn held Peter's hand tightly, her fingers trembling from pain. She whispered, just loud enough for those in the front row to hear, "I don't want to leave this world just as a patient. I want to leave as your wife." The words brought many to tears, even the seasoned minister who had officiated hundreds of weddings. There was no extravagant reception, no dance floor, no champagne frenzy. Instead, it was a warm evening filled with piano music and old songs. A well-known lounge singer from Los Angeles, a longtime friend of Carolyn's, sang As Time Goes By as a special gift. Hollywood Reporter later revealed that even during the ceremony, Carolyn had to sit several times due to pain. Yet she still forced herself to stand whenever photos were being taken. After the wedding, news of the secret ceremony spread. People magazine ran the headline in its October 1982 issue. Morticia Addams finds her final love. The public was stunned, some skeptical, but most deeply moved. Some accused her of staging a publicity stunt. But the majority understood that this was Carolyn's way of declaring that she was still in control of her life, even when fate had already made its verdict. Despite her rapidly failing health, Carolyn returned to the Capitol set just weeks after the wedding. She refused to be seen as a frail woman. She wanted to be remembered as a working actress, still smiling before the camera. A co-star recalled asking why she didn't rest, and Carolyn laughed and replied, "I just got married. I want to live like a happy wife, not like a patient." In August 1983, less than a year after the wedding, Carolyn Jones passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 53. But the legacy she left behind was more than her roles. That final wedding became a symbol, a declaration that even at the very end, she still chose love, joy, and dignity over surrender. And from that moment on, audiences began to look back on her turbulent journey. From a lost Oscar chance to stormy marriages to shocking career decisions, every turning point in her life unfolded like a dramatic film. And its final scene was a wedding, both romantic and tragic. Crushed, reborn, and gone with dignity, Carolyn Jones was never a victim. She was the one who rewrote her own script. But between the spotlight and the sickbed, which one was the real Carolyn? If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because Hollywood may shine, but every light comes with a price.